Welcome to Seniority Authority, the podcast where I track down experts to answer your questions on aging. I'm your host, Kathleen Toomey. Let's get smarter about growing older. What if you could only do one thing, one practice that results in happier mind and healthier outcomes? And that one thing didn't cost you a dime. Interested? If you want to improve your mental well-being, stay tuned. Some of you may have heard the important new research that tells us that the more positive we are about our own experience of aging, the more favorable our health outcomes will be. It's a huge turnaround from the more dated belief that biology and genetics determine all. Dr. Jennifer Smith is in the midst of that research and is here today to discuss her findings on a new tool you can do at home, in the car, wherever you are right now. Dr. Smith is Director of Research at Mather Institute, which is a leading national research center on aging. She holds a doctorate degree from social psychology from Loyola University of Chicago. For almost 10 years, Dr. Smith has contributed to Mather's mission of creating ways to age well by conducting research on the ways to enhance psychological well-being and positive aging in older adults. She's published over 20 journal articles and book chapters on topics such as strategies for savoring positive experiences, resilience, and perceptions on aging. Thanks to our show sponsor, the Riverwoods Group, Northern New England's largest family of not-for-profit continuing care retirement communities, where independent, active adults find purpose, community, and peace of mind. Visit us at riverwoodsgroup.org. Now, let's hear from today's guest. Thank you for joining Seniority Authority, Dr. Smith.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Great to have you here. I'm very, very excited about your work and the work of the Mather Institute, which we'll have a link to our show notes. But let's step back. And I'm always interested in young people. How did you originally get drawn to the topic of gerontology?
Well, I started out focusing on positive psychology because I thought it was interesting that just because someone wasn't unhappy doesn't necessarily mean that they're happy. So what are things that people can do to flourish and live their best life possible? And so I was excited when I learned about Mather because of their focus on positive aging. It gave me an opportunity to pursue my research interests with older adults who are relatively understudied.
And I am very familiar with Mather, but some of our listeners may not be familiar with the mission of the Mather Institute. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, Mather is a not-for-profit organization. We're based in Evanston, Illinois, and I love our mission. It's to create ways to age well, and we do that through 3 areas of service. We have senior living communities that we own and operate. We also provide programs to the broader older adults in the broader community to support engaging and sense of connection. And then we have our research institute, which focuses on applied research to support older adults, aging service providers, and Mather Institute studies different aspects of wellness, resilience, and positive aging.
Awesome. I'm very also pleased to say that our podcast won an award for the Mather Institute. So I'm very excited about this, all this positive energy. Now, let's talk about your research project. You share that although people in general have 3 times as many positive experiences as negative experiences, we naturally focus on the negative. Why is that?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's from an evolutionary perspective, it makes sense because we were on the lookout for threats in our environment, for dangers. So it's very self-protective to have that negative slant toward problems, but we can only focus on so many things at once. And so if our focus is leaning towards negative things, then we may miss out on the positive things that are happening around us. And if we don't notice them, then we can't really benefit from them. And it's as if they didn't happen.
And that's where your research comes in to try to combat that natural tendency to focus on the negative. And you talk about savoring. Most people associate that word with food, but you identify it as a tool that people can learn to use to improve their outlook. How do you define savoring?
Yet savoring enables us to make the most of positive experiences. There are really two parts. It's being aware of good things, positive things when they're happening around us, and then using our thoughts and our behaviors to increase our enjoyment of them. So like you mentioned, a lot of ways that we can savor food, for instance, slowing down, paying attention to the different textures, the spices, using our senses, maybe sharing a meal with others. We can use similar strategies to savor positive experiences in our life.
Awesome. And you've broken this down into 3 types of savoring. Can you describe what they are and which one is most effective?
We can savor by focusing on past positive or future experiences. And regardless of the time orientation, we're enhancing our positive emotions in the current moment. So, for instance, we can positively reminisce by looking through old photo albums or retelling family stories. In the current moment, we can focus our senses and really be present and focused on what we're enjoying. We can also look forward to future events and imagine what that will be like and how much we enjoy it. So when people are asked about their savoring ability, they tend to rate themselves highest on being able to savor through reminiscence and lowest on anticipation. So it may be that people are a little hesitant to anticipate or positively look forward to positive experiences before they happen so they don't jinx them. They may feel a little superstitious, but there are also a lot of opportunities to get a lot of happiness through anticipation too. So researchers have found that comparing vacationers and non-vacationers, before someone goes on a vacation, they tend to be a lot happier because they're anticipating that vacation. And then afterwards, vacationers and non-vacationers have similar levels of happiness.
Okay, interesting. So we can focus on the anticipation a little bit more, and that would be helpful to make our well-being, to improve our well-being.
Yeah, I think they all have a time and a place. And so anticipation would work really well before planned events like vacations and holidays.
Okay. What is the research you've done that connects the concept of savoring and how it affects our well-being? You've explained savoring, but now how does savoring connect us to improve our well-being?
Yeah, the most immediate benefit of savoring is an increase in positive emotions. So through savoring, we can experience positive emotions more often. They may last longer. We feel them. Our feelings are more intense. Research has found that people with higher savoring abilities, they report greater happiness, fewer depressive symptoms, more life satisfaction. And there's also a larger, broader body of research that shows that there's a lot of benefits to positive emotions, such as increased creativity. It's related to stronger relationships. People are more likely to try new things. We're better at problem solving. We handle stress better, recover from stress better as well.
So sounds good to me. So I'm ready to sign up.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's nothing in that list that I don't want to have in my life. And I would say that my listeners are in the same boat. Let's bring on more positivity. If you're getting smarter, let us know. Leave us a review, a rating, wherever you listen to podcasts. Tell your friends and follow us on social. We're at Seniority Authority on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And don't forget, if you're listening to YouTube, hit the notification bell so you can subscribe. Or subscribe to our newsletter at seniorityauthority.org so you don't miss a thing. You have identified 10 types of ways to savor. And I'm really excited because as a gift to our listeners, we have a downloadable form you've created for us. It's going to be available on our show notes. But can you just touch on a couple of those ways if we have listeners right now that are vacuuming the house or driving their car? What are a few things they can start doing right away?
Yeah, absolutely. So we can use mental tricks to help us appreciate positive experiences more by comparing them to other experiences. For instance, we can try remembering or imagining a time when a positive experience like this wasn't possible. The pandemic could be really helpful for this because it disrupted so many normal daily aspects of our lives that we can easily think back to a time when we couldn't just hug somebody, or we couldn't go to a restaurant, or even when we're going through our chores and we don't feel like going grocery shopping. Just remember how nice it was that first time we could safely go to the grocery store, or remember when the shelves would be empty and you could,
Oh, yeah.
you can appreciate it more.
Yeah, exactly. Toilet paper is in abundance. Thank
Yes.
God.
Yeah, it's simple things we take for granted sometimes.
Yes, I had that experience myself where I walk in and I'm kind of like, oh, should I mask? And I'm just like, I don't have to. And it's
Right.
great. It's a great feeling.
Yes, you can see people smile. It's just things that you don't even notice. And it's so easy to slip back into the way it was before the pandemic too, and lose that appreciation.
That is absolutely true.
Kind of another mental trick we can do is to remind ourselves that the positive experience is limited in some sense, that it doesn't last forever. So it's spring here, and I know that I haven't noticed them blooming yet, but there are lilac bushes near where I live. And so I always look for them when the weather becomes nice because they're so fragrant and pretty. And I know that there's just that window of time when I can enjoy them.
Absolutely. I think spring is absolutely my favorite season. And it's spring here when we're recording right now. And it is the perfect time for savoring. And because you see all of the little new shoots coming up and, the landscape is changing daily in a positive way. And things are growing. And it's a great time to start kind of appreciating where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. There's even research showing that participants were given pieces of chocolate and rated how much they enjoyed them. And half of the people were told when it was their last piece of chocolate. And the rest of the people didn't know. And the people who knew it was their last piece of chocolate rated that they enjoyed it more. They savored it more because it was their last piece.
So scarcity itself and what you were saying, understanding that this is a fleeting moment and to appreciate it for that fleeting moment is really important.
Yes.
For our listeners. So just, another part of don't assume, just this is very precious opportunity. What would you recommend for our listeners who wanted to start a savoring practice today or tomorrow? And how do they go about starting this practice?
One thing that I would recommend trying is a savoring look because it's very kind of concrete in a specific set of time. So your listeners could set aside some time to plan a walk. It could be 15, 20 minutes, whatever works for them. And during that walk, they set an intention to only focus on positive things and looking for everything positive around them, whether it's a passing dog or beautiful architecture, flowers that are blooming, noticing the weather.
And just the air, just being outside.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a great suggestion. Starting a savoring walk. That is a really good practice that pretty much anyone can do. And as you said, it doesn't have to be long, but it's kind of starting that practice in your mind.
Yes. And it's an opportunity to practice noticing positive things because the more we have an opportunity to do that, the more we train our brain to notice positive things, the more successful we are at that. And then when we notice something positive, think about it. What is it that you enjoy so much about it?
Okay. I think it's important to go back to the beginning of the conversation that we need to retrain our brains to do this because naturally, biologically, we're programmed to notice the negative because a caveman embedded in us is looking for threats. And so we have to really work to rewire our brains to say, wow, this is a great thing that happened. I once had a consultant who recommended that at the end of the day, you go home to your partner and Instead of saying, oh my gosh, I had such a horrible day, the traffic, you say 3 good things. Here are 3 good things. Even if it's the tuna fish was fresh today, it doesn't matter what it is. You find that and you intentionally talk about that.
Yeah, I think the 3 good things is a great practice to follow. I've also heard from someone who every morning, as soon as they put their feet on the ground, they think of something that they're grateful for. It's good to kind of build in those prompts to remind you to savor it and be appreciative. And there's just things that can interfere with our ability to savor too. So we do have that inclination to focus on negative things. We're also easily distracted. So
what'd you say?
We're
I wasn't listening. Oh my
exactly.
God. This is so true. We are in such a culture that honors and reveres busyness and multitasking. Multitasking is not a gift to anyone. That's my little rant on multitasking, which I do. And everything is worse when you multitask. You're distracted. You're not paying attention to the moment. It's a bad habit we've gotten used to, and we unfortunately honor as a trait of busy people, which I just read a Harvard Business Review article on why we honor busyness above all, and it's not a helpful thing.
I agree with what you're saying. We multitask because we want things to go well, but really it's detracting from our ability to savor positive experiences. And we can also really get into our routines. And as soon as something becomes routine, we stop appreciating it to the same extent.
Yeah, that's a really important point, that something that can be new and delightful becomes rote, and you lose a little bit of that. What is next, Dr. Smith?
We have just completed the 5th year of the Age Well study. We're doing a 5-year longitudinal study of life plan community residents, or CCRC residents. So we have a lot of data, including measures of savoring and well-being. And so next, I'm excited to look at changes in savoring and well-being over that 5-year time span.
Wow. And that includes the pandemic. So that'll be a nice kind of, are you going to be cutting the data? I'm sure you're cutting the data a million different ways.
Yes.
That's terrific. We already know that you're a smart researcher who savors her own positive experiences, but now let's get to know you a little bit better. This is our Fast 5 lightning round. What is your favorite guilty pleasure?
Oh, I like brownies. Brownies are good.
What's your favorite healthy practice?
Going for walks outside when the weather's beautiful, savoring walks.
You're taking your own medicine.
Yes.
What's guaranteed to make you laugh?
I like the TV show Schitt's Creek. It's really funny.
Yeah, I love Moira.
Yes, me too.
Tell us about the last book you loved.
I enjoyed Clara and the Sun by Ishiguro.
He's a great writer, and that's on the top, one of the top of my list. And a favorite escape when you want to savor somewhere other than where you are right now, where would you go?
I enjoy painting.
That is wonderful. I want to thank you, Dr. Smith, for coming and sharing all this information for our listeners. To the listeners, we have a downloadable top 10 savoring tips from Dr. Smith on our show notes. Thank you so much. It's been a great experience to learn about what Mather's doing and learn about your research, and hopefully you'll come back.
I would love to. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. That's our show for today. If it helped you think differently, will you help me? Go to the Seniority Authority page on your podcasting app and hit either the plus, heart, sign, favorite, or subscribe button so you don't miss out. And tell your friends so we can spread the word. Until then, enjoy the chance to get smarter about growing older. That's our show for today. If you liked it, please tell your friends so we can reach more minds and keep the conversation going. Or follow us on social at Seniority Authority. I'm Kathleen Toomey. Until next time, enjoy your chance to get smarter about growing older.